Prepare to die, Peter.
To die would be a great adventure.
Death is the only adventure you have left.
Today I want to talk about roguelike games. As a genre, it is one that is completely unique to gaming. If you asked a non-gamer to name a shooter, they could probably come up with Call of Duty. But if you ask them to name a roguelike, they're most likely going to give you a
"What the hell is even that?"
Even amongst gaming nerds, no genre is more confusing to us and harder to nail down than roguelikes. Real quick, history time. Where did the name roguelike come from? Well, surprise, surprise, it came from a 1980s game called Rogue. Although minimalistic as hell, this game was impactful enough with its original gameplay concept to have a whole subsequent genre named after it, much like how any game nowadays that's similar to Dark Souls are called Souls-like games. Okay, that explains the history, but what even is a roguelike? If I was to narrow it down to 3 elements that every roguelike is most likely to have, it would be these. Number 1, it has to be unforgiving. Repeated failure is expected and punished severely, usually by having you restart the entire game from scratch. Because of this, the games themselves actually tend to be pretty short in terms of playtime. Once you've mastered the game or got lucky enough in a run, it should usually take you under an hour to complete the whole game or at least a level of it. But just being hard doesn't make a game a roguelike. Dark Souls is a series that prides itself on punishing difficulty, and it is by no stretch considered a roguelike because it's missing the following 2 points. Number 2, there is no manual saving. This isn't to say there's no saving at all, that every time you sit down to play you have to finish the whole game then and there. Not at all. There is saving, it just tends to be done automatically by the game itself, usually after the end of some kind of level. The lack of being able to save whenever you want adds to that aforementioned difficulty. This removes that safety net of being able to save every few minutes or before huge boss fights. If you die, you go all the way back to the start. Lastly, and perhaps most commonly, is that roguelikes love randomness. Everything from map layouts to buffs, encounters, items, and combat all contains some element of randomization. All of this plays a big part in adding to the difficulty because it's impossible to know exactly what you're going to face on any given run. Sure, certain staples can be the same, like boss fights, or certain levels can contain similar elements, but no one can give you a step-by-step as to exactly what you are going to face on any given run. Only what is possible. This is also largely what makes roguelikes so much fun. All of this unpredictability is what keeps things fresh. I mean, if you're going to have your players by design try levels over and over and over again to beat the game, the worst thing you could possibly do is make each attempt exactly the same and annoyingly predictable. If after hearing this list, you think, that sounds like a lot of self-imposed suffering, congratulations! You have correctly identified a roguelike. So why would anyone want to play these types of games? What's the appeal? Well, when done right, roguelikes offer a narrative experience that is truly unique to video games. Each of your missteps has an actual consequence beyond the minor inconvenience of loading your last save, and it usually plays a big role in driving the narrative. Besides, the fact that you can lose all of your progress at any time due to a minor slip-up not only keeps you engaged, but also makes every single victory feel earned. So with that, you get a rough idea as to what a roguelike is and why someone would want to play it. But wait, there's more. To make matters even more confusing, within the roguelike genre, you will also find roguelites. This is a small but notable distinction that tends to lead to a lot of debates over which of the 2 categories a game will fall into. In fact, most people just give up and use the genres interchangeably. But there is a way you can reliably tell the difference between the 2 genres, and it just comes down to complete refreshes versus carryover. It's an important distinction because it greatly affects how the game is meant to be played. In a roguelite, you are expected to fail over and over and over again so that you're able to carry over whatever you can to make yourself stronger. The end goal here is to eventually reach the end of the story by slowly improving your character and odds over time. So essentially, in a roguelite, your success is all but guaranteed as you get stronger and stronger and master the game at the same time. That being said, it's also a lot harder to beat those games on your first few tries, because by design, they want you to play over and over again. On the other hand, a pure roguelike can be beaten on the first pass, if everything lines up just right. The entertainment here comes from not the story so much, but the complete uniqueness of each run, or beating a personal best time or score. Let's take a look at a couple examples. Faster Than Light, or FTL for short, is a textbook roguelike. In this largely text-based game, you are just trying to get your ship from one end of the galaxy to the other while outrunning an imposing threat. The encounters themselves are completely random, and even the results of the same encounter can be different from run to run. Searching a ship in one run can yield you loot, while in the next, it can blow your ship up. Getting to the end requires not only adaptive strategy, but a ton of luck. If you die, you start over 100% fresh. The only sense of progression you get is unlocking new and different kinds of ships, but they don't yield any particular advantages, just small cosmetic differences. Whereas FTL is a perfect example of a roguelike, Hades is a game that perfectly captures the essence of a roguelite. Here, failures and death don't feel so punishing because death itself is part of the story. In fact, the only way to move the story along is to die over and over and over again. As the son of the titular character, you play Zagreus and are trying to escape the underworld to get to the surface. It is a laughably impossible task, but with some of the gods on Olympus and some other allies, you slowly start to make some headway. Every run, you get a little bit stronger. Although it's the same 4 levels over and over, it took me 31 tries to finally beat, slowly making progress each and every try. Now, I'm over my 90th run, and I'm still moving the story forward and finding new unlocks and upgrade combinations to experiment with. The fun here comes from advancing the story while also trying out all the unique combinations that you can get. Later on, to keep things fresh, Hades offers the ability for players to add in additional challenges to their runs in exchange for greater rewards. This leads to every nail-biting completion still being met with a huge sigh of relief instead of an expected success. Roguelikes and roguelites are definitely not for everyone. Their punishing difficulty and lack of forgiveness can be a massive turnoff, but they offer some of the most truly distinctive experiences that gaming has to offer, with an unrivaled sense of accomplishment for victory. If you're gonna dive head-on into this genre, I do recommend you start with a roguelite before you move into the more intense roguelikes. You'll find satisfaction here in the small forward progress that you'll make, and be motivated to continue by the promise of advancing the story. Just remember that dying is just part of the adventure. Until next time, thanks for letting me talk gaming today.